What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video, and today we have a bone stock Rubicon Wrangler. But there's one thing special about this one, and it's the hybrid 4xe Wrangler. So this is the 2-liter turbo Wrangler like you can currently get, but this has the hybrid electric system with the big battery pack that you can plug, charge the thing in, and get additional electric only range. So we're gonna do a quick little walk around, look at it, see some of the interesting weird buttons on it, and then we will go out and take it for a drive and see how this thing drives. So guys, on the external appearance, you do notice all of the blue accents, blue tow hooks, blue around the Rubicon letters, blue on the hood, which is different than the normal red on a Rubicon. But other than that, it is very normal Rubicon. We've got rock rails, everything that you would normally expect to see on a Rubicon, other than you've got a big door here for your charging. And it's got a nice rubber weather tight connector, so you could go out and still play with it like you are supposed to with a Jeep. But other than the blue and the big charging connector on it, it is very, very unassuming looking. And again, blue tow hook, blue 4xe lettering. Now when we jump inside, you also have the blue accent stitching all over the place, but we've got some weird buttons here. We've got our hybrid only mode, we have a forced all electric mode, and then an e-save mode. And as we jump into the interior more, we've got our max regenerative braking mode. And other than that, it is very normal. Shifter, everything that you would expect to see in a Rubicon. We've got our locker switch, sway bar switch, auxiliary switches, everything that you would expect to see. So guys, on initial startup, it starts up in the normal hybrid mode over here on the left side of the steering wheel. And when you start it, you hear nothing. Now this is 100% charged, and we have a 30-mile range for the electric only mode. So as you take off, obviously you don't have an engine running, you just hear the slight noise for the kind of hybrid system. But other than the weird feeling of there not being an engine running, it's driving obviously like every other Jeep Wrangler Rubicon out there. Now, like I said, we are currently in the hybrid mode, so this should work like a Prius or any other hybrid out there, where it's going to try to utilize the gas engine and the electric engine as good as possible to save fuel and get the best fuel economy. Obviously, when you're sitting at a stoplight, it's turned off, the gasoline engine for that matter. But if you get on the throttle hard enough and need the extra power from the gasoline engine, it's going to come on. Now, the other two modes is electric mode, where it's going to try to only utilize that electric motor. You're going to use the electric motor considerably, or the battery considerably quicker than you would normally in the hybrid mode. And then finally, you've got the e-save mode. Now, to me, that's really cool, because this mode will try to conserve as much of the battery as possible. So say you were planning an off-road trip, it was a couple-hour drive to the trails, you could put it in the e-save mode, drive to the trails primarily with the gasoline engine, and know that you've got your 30 miles of range for when you get to the trails, which would kind of be fun, because you could off-road, rock crawl, do what you wanted to do with your Rubicon, but without any engine noise. And to me, that would be a really cool thing. You would hear a lot more tire noise as it's gripping into the rocks and tearing into the ground than you would normally hear over your revving, roaring engine. So that would be a really cool feature, to be able to use the e-save mode and drive to your trail with the gas engine. Now, driving down the road, We are doing 65 miles an hour in the hybrid mode, standard position, and the engine's off. This thing is driving down the road 65 miles an hour, and I don't believe we ever got the gasoline engine to fire up, and we accelerated very comfortably, didn't feel lacking. It accelerated really nicely. As I was talking with you guys, I didn't notice I was in an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. It just drove like it should. Now, we are doing, again, about 60 miles an hour. I'm gonna roll into the throttle pretty decently and see if we kick that gasoline engine on. Here we go. And again, I rolled into it maybe half throttle, and the gas engine kicked on to give us that additional power. So it's definitely there when it needs to be and not when it doesn't need to be. Now that we are cruising again back at 60, the gas engine is still on, because you can come over here and watch your tachometer and see it is sitting here idling at about 1500 RPM. Now you may ask yourself, what in the world is the point of this hybrid electric 4xe Wrangler? Now, if you had a short commute to work, I have a relatively short commute myself, in theory, I could charge this up at night, have a full 30 miles of range, drive to work conservatively, and drive home conservatively, and never use any fuel. Now that would be really, really cool, and something kind of fun to see how long you could go without having to fill this thing up. Now another interesting thing is the button down here on the dash. That is the max regenerative braking feature. I've now got it turned on, and when I roll off the throttle, it is a pretty heavy braking sensation. Now, obviously, in most hybrid or electric vehicles, you can go in and change how light or strong or heavy that regenerative braking feeling is. Because some people may not like the feeling of getting off the throttle and almost having the brakes applied for you. But it's kind of interesting that you can quickly toggle it on and off on the dash and feel how much more. As I was coasting with the max regen turned on, I turned it off and immediately needed to get on the brakes because the vehicle is not decelerating any longer. So it is definitely very effective at slowing the vehicle down and bringing back some of the charge to that battery pack. Now onto the battery. In the Wrangler 4xe, it lives under the second row or the back seat. It is a 400 volt battery which lives under that back seat, and that is what you get your 30 miles of range from. Now there is no additional battery packs, hidden around the vehicle. It is just under that back seat. Now obviously you still have the 12 volt battery under the hood like every other vehicle, but the big battery lives under the back seat. So if you were used to that storage room for some of your gear, it is now gone in place of the large battery. And you may wonder, with the gas engine in the vehicle and the hybrid setup, where does that engine live, or the electric motor? And there's two electric motors on this vehicle. There is the smaller electric motor that is in place of the alternator / electric motor that runs on the engine's serpentine belt system. And then there is the main large electric motor that is in place of the automatic transmission torque converter. Now that is pretty interesting because it can couple and decouple in two positions, one in front of the torque converter or the electric motor on the engine's side, and then it can decouple also on the transmission side, depending on what the vehicle is wanting to do. If the gasoline engine needs to sit there and idle to charge the battery, it needs to decouple at the transmission side. But if the vehicle's running in electric mode, it obviously needs to decouple on the gasoline engine side. So a lot of stuff going on, two electric motors, big batteries, but so far at least it is driving very, very seamlessly. We accelerated onto the highway the electric motor, or the gas motor, excuse me, did kick on to get me up to speed since I was giving it a little bit more than normal throttle. But once I'm up to speed, the gasoline engine shut off and I am driving down the road at 65 miles an hour with no fuel consumption. Now we're gonna go ahead and kick it in the electric mode. And again, I'm going to see, can we kick the gasoline engine on in the electric mode? I'm going to roll into the throttle pretty heavy like we did earlier. And again, it still will kick the gasoline engine on if you get into that throttle hard enough, because it knows that it can't accelerate as hard as you may need it to. So again, even in the all electric mode, it still might kick the gasoline engine on. But again, for the most part, this hybrid mode that it defaults to on startup seems to be pretty seamless and work really well. Now, it will be interesting to see if we get any of these 4xEs lifted with big 37-inch tall tires and what that does to the driving dynamic, the hybrid system. Will it like it? Will it not care? With electric motors, you have tons of low-end torque, so it might not even care about turning some big 37-inch tall tires. But guys, like I said, this is the first one I've driven, and I was interested to take you guys along, see what you guys thought of it, see what my impressions were, and honestly, it's pretty cool. Now, serviceability, will we have issues with them? Will we not? Only time will tell, since this is the first year with the 4xE hybrid system. But so far, it seems like a really cool system, just driving it around, getting that initial feeling of how it drives, how it acts, how the gasoline engine interacts with the electric engine. So guys, thanks for coming along with me, and hopefully you'll start seeing some of these blue accented Jeep Wranglers rolling around, and you'll be a little bit more educated on what the heck they are, what they look like, what is going on inside of these things. So guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.